Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged. This is the Mangina Dialogues. We at it again with your host Nick Scopes and the Gregolicious. You know how we do, cause you know we keeping it gangster and silly. Unplugged like a full swung titty. Bout get jitty, cause you know we down to the nitty and the gritty. And we make shit sound so damn pretty. Yeah, cause this unhinged comedy. And right now you're in the mix, so get ready, cause we bout to get it poppin'. And we ain't stopping.
Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged. This the Mangina Dialogues. We at it again. Yeah, we at it again. Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged. This the Mangina Dialogues. We at it again. Yeah, we at it again.
Hello and welcome to the Mangina Dialogues. I am your host, Nick Scopes.
And I'm the Gregolicious.
And our guest today...
I can't do that with a straight face anymore.
I know. You should probably change your Instagram handle. I can already hear her laughing. I'm so excited. Our guest today, if I fuck this up, I'm sorry, Periel Aschenbrand. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on, guys? What's going on with that?
What's going on with the song? Yeah.
You hear any good hip hop lately?
Well, what's up? Where are we coming from?
We're at it again.
Yeah, we're coming. Like, where in the world are we? Like, situated? Like, where are we?
Where are we coming from? Where's that song from? What are our backgrounds?
Greg did it, so Greg gets explained. By the way, his name's the Gregolicious. Did you see that on Instagram?
I did see that. You know what? I feel like every time I see that, I make a mental note to what's up with that, and then by the time I get around an opportunity to be what the fuck is up with that? Am I allowed to curse?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then I forget. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I can't imagine that that's something that hasn't been addressed thus far.
No, it's always been addressed. Dude. Do you have any questions for Greg while you have him? Let's flip
this is not about me.
Come on. Oh, he gets so embarrassed. God damn it. Oh, my God.
I mean, you cannot walk around with a name like the Gregolicious without, you have to be ready to defend.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you know what? When
you
you're
better not go to jail. That'd be tough.
For so many reasons. I have a baseball card, I let my baseball card do the talking.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Waiting.
I got to pass you a baseball card. I'll virtually pass you a baseball card.
She's not here, so.
I know, it's unbelievable. There is really no story to it. There is. I mean, I should make one up. I should make up some good shit about how I came up with that name, but there really is none. There is no good story. You can make one up for me if you want.
Yeah, you're a writer.
Thinking, I feel like we need a story.
Well, my bio somewhere says that I was allegedly raised by wolves in rough and tough Bergen County, New Jersey. So we could start there and come up with a second part to that story.
I think we still lose the wolves.
What would you replace the wolves with?
Italian women.
Oh, fair enough.
They're like wolves.
That they are, and that probably would have been harder.
Yeah, they're tough, man. Come to Christmas.
Weren't you just complaining about Thanksgiving food because of the lasagna?
You are really trying to out me, aren't you?
You're my favorite guest we've ever had thus far. I love this so much.
But you know what? It's very fair to have that perspective when you grow up. So I grew up with a half Jewish family, half Italian family, but I only hung out with the Italian side of the family, so I only grew up eating all Italian food on every single holiday, regardless of what that holiday was. So once all those people passed on, and it went to my current family doing American Thanksgiving for people that are actually African and from Iraq, it's a much different type of Thanksgiving.
Wait a second. Who's from Iraq?
An aunt.
An aunt. Okay.
Yeah. And
okay. I mean, I feel I do have a lot of questions here, but yeah.
let them fly. Let's do this.
Yeah.
What do you got? Start.
Well,
with,
she asked about the song.
No, let her go.
Okay.
Well, but first of all, so it's interesting, like half Italian, half Jewish, that the Italians won.
Have you ever battled a bunch of Italians?
Well, that's what I'm guessing. It's your mom who was Italian and your dad who was Jewish. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
I love this
Well,
girl.
yeah. Oh, thank you. That's really sweet. I mean, I feel like it's just like deductive reasoning, right? Like,
Yes.
if your mom was Jewish and your dad was Italian, I feel like you would have been eating like bagels for Thanksgiving, probably.
Well,
I would have
Anyway.
preferred. I would prefer a bagel than like typical. I don't know. I'm just being an asshole, I guess.
well, how about this? To even confuse you more, I'm Italian. My father owned a bagel store in New York. We're not Jewish at all. We have zero. Yeah, no, I'm not exaggerating. My father, that's literally what he did for his job.
Nick's got bagel blood.
Yeah.
That's wild. That was my first job ever. Was
At a bagel
in a
shop?
bagel store.
Oh,
yeah.
dope.
In Queens, which is where I grew up. But yeah.
I was going to say, because your name, let's face it, your name's pretty interesting. So what nationality are you? Let's get into this.
I am a New York Jew, really. My mom's from Israel, though. So my name's actually Hebrew. Periel is like translated from Hebrew. But my dad and like my whole dad's side of the family for several generations are like pretty hardcore New Yorkers. Like my dad grew up in the East Village in Stuyvesant Town.
I lived there.
You know, it was, yeah. Well, when my grandmother died, I began like illegally squatting there. You know, now it's like, you know, sort of built as this like luxury. It was built for working class, you know, just like blue collar working class people, like cops and people who were like returning from like the military when it was built.
Right.
So, yeah. And then my mom grew up in Israel and came here when she was like 13.
Wow. I'd imagine growing up Jewish in New York, just you're naturally made to be in the comedy
Wait,
world.
which bagel shop did you? Oh, in Queens. I don't know Queens.
In Rego Park. I mean, you guys, growing up Jewish in New York, you're just destined to work at a bagel
Yeah, no
shop.
kidding. I mean, I grew up in northern New Jersey, raised by wolves, and half of my friends worked in the bagel shops.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a Jew around besides me.
Right.
More half.
Actually, that's not true.
Yeah.
I grew up with it. There's a fair amount, obviously, in northern New Jersey.
Makes sense.
We all went to camp together.
In Maine.
Of course you did.
Did you go to
Of course
camp,
you
Periel?
did.
Did you go to camp?
Of course.
How
I
did that-
I went.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's like, no, I mean, it's like such a Jewish New York
Yeah.
thing to go to camp. But I mean, to be fair, I do think that that's like more of a Long Island sort of wealthy kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I was like kind of like an inner city kid. Like you know, most of the people who I grew up with are, you know, never left our neighborhood.
Yeah. That's the type of area it is, right? But
Yeah, I mean, that's what Queens is like. I was never like that, mostly because my mom's family were not from here.
right.
And it's very possible that my grandfather was in the Mossad, which is how they wound up in New York. I mean, it's all like very shady. But
He was an accountant for the mob or something. Yeah.
no. I think he was like, you know, he was like one of like the guys who like founded the state of Israel with Begin.
Oh wow.
So they, you know, they lived in like Buenos Aires and Paris and like places, you know, like nobody did that then. That wasn't like a
Yeah.
thing. Like you didn't travel like that then. So I grew up traveling quite a bit, just mostly because, and my dad traveled a lot for work, but I think that was really one of the reasons why, like, I knew I have like a whole bit about this. It's like I realized from a very young age that like I was living in the wrong borough.
Should have been in Manhattan.
Yeah, I mean, it was like my grandparents lived in the East Village, and my lived in Greenwich Village, and I started coming here, you know, as a baby. But when I was old enough to like realize what the fuck was going on, I was like, this is not good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong place. Like, if I wanted, you know, I never fit in. Like, I never felt like I looked around in Queens and like I saw what everybody was doing and the kinds of lives or the kind of life that you would have if you stayed there.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not what I'm going for here. This is not what I'm in the market for.
What do you got against hairdressers?
Well, actually, nothing. I don't think that was really what was going on, though. I mean, it was like,
Just kidding.
There's just like nothing spectacular, I think, about where we were. I mean, it was like a very, sorry, there's a car going by. I mean, listen, it's not, you know, just wasn't it wasn't what I wanted. Like, I knew that if I wanted to do something amazing, it wasn't going to happen by staying in Queens.
Right. You were, well, they came out, like, your family, they exposed you to culture so young. You're like, oh, there's other shit out there. And
Totally.
Like different experiences. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that they really regretted that in a certain way. Because
Why is that?
I mean, because I really like took it to an extreme of like, I mean, the second I finished high school, I like moved across the country and like proceeded to, you know, travel, and you know, I was just like, I'm fucking out of here.
Right. Where'd you
Like,
move
it's
to? You
still-
moved to California?
I moved to Tucson, Arizona, because I thought pot was legal there.
You thought or you saw?
No, I thought I was an idiot.
Oh, so
but I
it was
also
not.
a big pothead.
That's why
No, it's not.
I went on Grateful Dead tour just because I thought everything was legal. I'm like, if you
Right,
were on
Grateful
tour,
Dead
nothing's illegal.
Well, I feel like that's not wrong. I mean, that's not right, but it's also not wrong.
Totally. I thought it was very right.
Yeah. I mean, I did that too. Like, I traveled around. I followed the dead. Like, you know, I think I was really trying to like figure out who I was and what I was trying to do. And what, you know, I just knew that I never felt like a normal person. Like, I never felt like I wanted like a normal life.
How many did you?
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that you said you went on tour with the Dead. I did too for many years. What is the like craziest thing that happened to you on like a Dead tour? Whether, you know, whatever, not crazy like insane, but just like if you're on the tour. I mean, I have many things, but like, what would you say was the greatest or weirdest or craziest experience while you were on like tour with the Dead?
I mean, the whole thing is just insane. Like, you know, we wound up like in the hospital because like my friend was tripping so hard on mushrooms that like he fell flat on his face and like his two front teeth fell out. You know, I mean, you know, in like, you know, some city in California or God knows where. I mean, I think it was just a really insane. I think I was figuring out like how to be free. You know, I think like that was really part of it. And, you know, growing up in a place that, you know, felt like fairly traditional with a family that was like, you know, fairly traditional, and like a mother who was, you know, my parents were amazing, but my mom was very sort of naive about the ways of the world and had come here and didn't really speak English. And, you know, my father was kind of like, I'm pretty sure like the first guy she ever had sex with. And, you know, I was like trying to like prostitute myself out like as early as I humanly, you know, as possible. Like, I was trying to like experience the world. And, you know, to circle back to what we started talking about before we came on air, like that really, my first glimpse of understanding that was really through comedy. Like that was the first time I experienced something. The first time I heard Andrew Dice Clay, when I was much younger than like I should have been, right?
Yeah.
And Stern, when I was a little kid, like listening to Stern on the radio,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait a second, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's funny. I remember when Stern first came to New York. Well, not to New York, but when he first went on to K-Rock in New York, he was on in the afternoon. So when I would get home from high school, I used to every day go outside and play basketball in my driveway, and I would take my boom box out, I would put it on the driveway, and I would listen to Stern from like 2 to 5 o'clock, and I would just wait for the lesbian dial-a-date or the crazy shit that they used to do at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like pretty sure that if my mom comes outside, she's going to have a fucking conniption.
Right.
What I'm doing, like she'd much rather have listened to my Slayer tapes or me listening to like whatever I would be listening to at the time than walking outside and me hearing Stern do all that shit that he was doing back then on the early days.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I used to make my mom let me listen to it on the way to school because she would drive me to school, and she was absolutely horrified. I mean, she really was. She'd never heard anything like that before in her life. And I remember for my father's birthday, I must have been like, I don't know, 15. So it was like 1990 or, something like that. And I bought my father a cassette tape of Andrew Dice Clay. And I'll never forget, like, going into the living room, and I'm an only child, so, I had a lot of, like, so it's like it's a different relationship, right, with your parents.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And my dad he was in the Army, and he's, like, a pretty, like, he holds his cards pretty close to his vest. Like, he's not, he doesn't talk that much. It takes him a while to open up, and he's I've never seen him laugh so hard in my life. Like he was crying from laughing from
That's awesome.
that Dice cassette tape, and it was amazing. And then I started to take the train into the city and go see stand up. I used to take the train into Manhattan from Queens, and it was like New York was insane then. You could do anything.
Yeah.
Like we used to smoke cigarettes on the subway.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was checking your ID. Like, it's a miracle that we were alive, frankly.
It's so true. We used to go when I was in my senior year of high school, my freshman year of college, whenever around the same time frame. We used to go down to the Village to a place called Cafe Wa because they used to have like a house band that would play all kinds of killer, fun, cool covered songs. But it was the only place that all of us high school or like 18-year-olds could go and not get carded and drink as much as we absolutely wanted to drink at the time in New York City, and then somehow find our way back to Bergen County, New Jersey.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was absolute the greatest, and I don't know if you can do that shit anymore.
Well, it's sad because look, you see kids who are in high school now, like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're on, like, TikTok.
They're vaping.
They're vaping. They're dying of, like, exploded lungs. I mean, I don't know. It's sad. It is. Like, it's, I feel like there was something really magical about that time. That, I don't know, it's kind of lost, right?
No, totally. I mean, it's funny because I would get on either my bike or my skateboard, and every day after school, and I would ride something like 5 towns away to go to the local record shop and just hang out in the record shop for an hour and then turn around and drive home. But it was like a 15-mile round trip, right? If my kid came to me today and said, I'm going to go take 7 miles down that way and 7 miles down this way, it's like, what am I putting on you to track you? Like my parents would like, okay, see you whenever, be home, no thought that some guy was going to pick you up, throw you in a van, never going to see you again. Or
really, there was no. I feel like there was some thought of that. No,
well, I mean, I don't know. The only recollection I have of any of that is there was some TV movie with Judd Hirsch. I remember the guy from Taxi, where some woman's kid got like abducted by some old people, and the whole thing was about this kid just getting whisked off the street and taken by some old people, and that was the only time there was ever any conversation around like, be careful out there.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but now, like, you can't do shit. Like, your kid can't go anywhere without you having 9 different tracking devices on them.
I feel like it's harder to like kidnap people now too, probably, right?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Nick. That's one of his hobbies, is like abducting people, throwing them in his Toyota.
That's how I found the Gregalicious, dude. Craigslist ad. Here it is.
So how did you find your way into comedy? Is it through all these experiences and just trying to find yourself, like you mentioned?
Well, I think that I first and foremost, I found my way to writing, which is really, I mean, I think that was like initially, and probably still, how like I kind of first identify, right? Like I think that when I found, and it was always, comedic writing,
Right.
but when I found writing, like I think I really like found myself and my voice, and understood that like that was really what I wanted to do. But in the process of that, sort of by accident, I started making, T-shirts, just kind of fucking around. But they got really big, and I started getting orders for actually thousands of T-shirts. And so I wound up, my first book was called The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own. And that was actually the first T-shirt that I made. And, it was just like sending it to friends and stuff. But then I got like an actual order for, I think the first order was like, I don't know, 1,000 shirts.
Right.
And so I needed to suddenly figure out how to I was screening them in my room. I mean, I lived in a loft in LA at the time, and I was hand screening them. So suddenly I was running this T-shirt business, and I started getting hired to do all these it wound up being this really sort of big campaign, and it was fun. I got really sort of taken off track, but it was also how I sold my first book, because I'd gotten all this press for all these T-shirts. And this was before Instagram and before Facebook. So this T-shirt kind of went viral, really. And I sold my first book on that platform, and sort of got really a little bit sidetracked for a while. Getting jobs. I kept getting hired to do these design and creative direction jobs. I mean, I learned all this on the street, right? It was really a political thing for me. When Bush was, running for office, I was oh, fucking hell no. And then I sort of reined it in, and I was okay, I need to focus. And I moved to Tel Aviv and wrote my second book. I was dating my now husband at the time. And then I wrote my second book, and then I would say it was about probably 5 years ago that I started dabbling in the comedy world. And I have a really good girlfriend who's a director and a writer, and she convinced me to go with her to take a stand-up class with the comic Rick Chrome, who is a great comedian. And he was, we took some classes with him, and stand-up was the only thing that really ever terrified me. I was never afraid of talking in front of large groups of people. There was nothing like that. And it was the only thing that I was really, I was always obsessed with Richard Pryor And I don't know, there was something about, telling the truth in that way. Like, that was the thing that always got me in trouble my entire life, right? Like, I was kind of a terrible student. I always had a really big mouth, but I always loved to make people laugh. And I think, like, that was always where I was, like, most comfortable,
Right.
in that world of, sort of brutal honesty and, like, darkness and truth. And sort of, like, really inappropriate humor.
What was the name of your
like,
second
even
book?
On My Knees.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Nick is really an eighth grader, by the way. He's
31 going on
disguised
13.
as an adult, but he's really an eighth grader.
We're not gonna disappoint him.
No, definitely not. He's all in.
And yeah, so I started, and then it's really about like a year and a half ago that I really started to like do stand up. So maybe 2 years ago. And I started producing the Sirius radio show and podcast for the Comedy Cellar almost a little bit less than a year ago. So, it's follow your dreams. I don't know.
Are you still like
That was so motivational. Do you have that poster in your house?
It's a T-shirt, you jackass.
I've tattooed in Chinese on my arm.
Do you have like a little cat says "Hang in there" and it's like right on your fucking. Yeah, that's what I figured.
So does it like? Are you still terrified of going up on stage?
I mean, I have pretty bad stage fright. I really do. Yeah.
Do you think you need that to be good, or like keep your edge?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I feel like look, I have like the great honor and privilege of like sitting at a table with, my heroes and like comedians who I've admired for like 15 years. So for the most part, like I just keep my mouth shut and listen. I mean, that's not actually true. I talk a lot too, but I hear some of them say that they do. And then I don't know though, the thing for me is like, I'm trying to get to a point where I don't want to be that nervous. I don't want the whole experience to be nerve-wracking, because I actually think that to be great, you probably have to lose that a little bit, because I don't think you can really be yourself if you're feeling nervous. Like when you look, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I agree with that. I'm very new into stand-up. I'm like a year and a half in, and Greg always makes fun of me because he knows I can't talk to him or have a conversation until after I'm done with my set. Like, I get so nervous, but there's things I want to do and things I want to try on stage that I guess like, because that's not, I mean, my personality comes out, but it's still, I get what you're saying. You feel like you're stuck and you're nervous and you're worried about this and that and you're not yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's really true. Like, I think that there's something to be said for being like a little bit nervous, right? Like that feels normal. Like you have like a little bit of like an adrenaline rush. But when you look at, sort of the brilliant comics, I don't think you can let that like drive the bus, because I do think that in order to be great and to be, you have to be yourself. You can't do anything. You can't perform your best at anything if you're just like super nervous.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I wouldn't think like anyone could go out and do, anything, regardless whether if they're in a full-blown panic attack, right?
Right.
But I think, something has to keep you on your toes.
I'm in a full-blown panic attack no, I'm not. I'm just kidding.
Well, Nick is. Like, sweats.
I mean, listen, you can, I feel like, really understanding and empathetic about that. It is, excuse the pun. I mean, it's really no joke.
It's the name of your next book. And it's no joke.
Yeah,
Just
it's
combine
no
all those
joke.
together. On your knees, no joke. It's my bush, leave
Well,
me alone.
Back to your theme song, Big Pun is really like one of my favorite artists. So I sort of fall into it.
I actually enjoy Big Pun too myself. I wonder if he's finally
amazing.
If he's finally a player or he's still just crushing a lot.
There's like a crazy documentary about his wife and like his kids that it's pretty dark actually.
Oh, what's it? I didn't know.
Yeah, why? It's just like about life after, because he died and like what happened after. Or?
Yeah, it's a mess. Like nobody. I mean, yeah, his wife is, or I feel like she got like kind of fucked after he died. I don't know. It's crazy. It's worth checking out though, but probably not worth talking about.
That's awesome. So let's dive into that a little more.
Trying to peel back some of those layers.
Yeah. Let's do the next podcast on the Big Pun documentary. We'll make it a whole series.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to watch it 37 times first. Mm-hmm. So what's like, where do you consider yourself now, like because of the podcast and producing that and the stand-up stuff you're producing and doing, like, do you look at yourself now more as a comedian or as an author?
Or as an ophthalmologist?
No, an author.
I actually didn't hear that you said that.
An ophthalmologist. Like, some Jewish think I'm a doctor. Think I'm an ophthalmologist. No.
I tell everybody from high school, if they ask me what I do, like people who I might come across from high school that I haven't seen in that many years, they'll be like, what are you doing now? And I'll be like, oh, I'm a neurologist.
That's really funny.
Yeah. I wrote that.
I'm gonna say that to somebody.
But it's got to be ophthalmologist.
Nobody would believe me.
That's the thing. Like, I can't believe any fucking asshole that I knew in high school would ever believe that I was a neurosurgeon. Or a neurologist. There's just no chance in hell.
I actually just met a neurosurgeon who, I mean, that is insane. Like, this guy was telling me shit. I was like, I don't even feel like I should be talking to you.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, I read about my bush and being on my knees.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're looking at people's brains and shit. And
I would have asked for a diagnosis or like, hey, can you just open up the hood here and tell me what you think?
He's actually dating a good friend of mine, so I feel like I have him like at
your disposal.
To some degree.
I wonder how that looks. Like if you're a neurosurgeon dating someone, like if you ever get in like an argument with that girl or guy or whatever, like they have so much material they can just whip out.
I know. I mean, I feel like if I was like that smart, I would not talk to anybody. Like, I barely like talking to people as it is, and I'm nowhere near that smart.
Well, you know what? It's a great thing that you're producing a podcast if you don't like talking to people. Because like if you were going to fall into any one particular job, like that's the one you should fall into.
Yeah, you don't have to talk to anyone
ever.
You just.
I should rephrase that. I don't like making small talk. That's what I don't like to do. I love talking to certain people, but then there are more people that like this is fun and interesting. But like if I have to like go pick my kid up from school and start making small talk with people, I want to blow my head off.
You know what? I'm the exact same way. Like I can't even bring myself to do it anymore. So when people meet me, I can't even hide the fact that I don't want to be talking to them. Like
I don't hide it very well either.
I can't even turn on like being fake to when I don't want to be engaged in a conversation. That like I literally come off as the biggest douche in the world. So
people think you're an asshole?
Oh my God, all day long.
I guess.
Yeah.
All day long. And I go to big, for my like main job, I'm constantly in these big events, whether they're networking events or annual meetings, and it's just nothing but fucking small talk with people, and I can't.
What kind of annual meetings are you going to?
AA mostly.
Right.
all the different anonymous ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Entertainment related stuff with the studios or the media companies.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to one.
Well, that feels like work related though. I mean, that's not as. I mean, you can't be a jerk at those things.
No, it's not. I'm not a jerk. It's not about being a jerk. It's just that I can't I just can't do it. Like, I don't know. I've never really been able to do it.
Right.
The last several years, it's got to be so much worse that I will avoid at all costs, like walking into a room early when I know that there's 20 minutes to kill and there's 400 people there and someone's going to pull you and talk your ear off about something ridiculous.
I mean, it's the worst thing ever. It's like a real live nightmare. Like, I actually just cannot. I cannot do it. I don't have the fucking emotional bandwidth. Like, I will just get up and walk away.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. Like, exactly the same thing.
You could be mid sentence for all I care. Like, I'm out.
Yep. You could be complimenting anything about me, and I'm just walking the fuck away. Like,
well, if you're complimenting me, I'll probably hang out for that part of it.
Not me. I take the opportunity to just walk away, because then at least I walked away in a compliment, and they may question the fact that you're an asshole.
Right.
I literally, my job outside of here, so I'm a personal trainer. So I spend one-on-one time all day back to back with people creating small talk. So I feel your pain. So when I'm outside of work, I always joke about this. Like, if I see someone in the supermarket or somewhere that I know it's going to be more small talk, I will go to the other side of the store, even if what I need is right there, just to avoid it, and then come back around when they're not there after work.
People probably think that you're their therapist, right? Like, as a personal trainer, you get that's. I feel not as awful as small.
No, it's not. It's not. It
talk.
depends on the client too. Like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I love a lot of my clients, and there's some times where there's some days where there's I have one in particular where it's just hard to get words out of her. And you're like,
right.
Do you hate this? Like, are you okay? Or do you, what's happening?
Right. She's like, I'm not okay.
Yeah. And there's some days she'll talk your ear off. It's just I never know, But yeah, a little bit more like that. But, it's always how you doing? How you feeling? How was your weekend? How are your kids?
Yeah, that stuff is very challenging.
Yeah. What are you doing this weekend? Why did you eat that last night?
Yeah. They're like, why did you eat 3 burgers last night?
It's my favorite when they go, how come I can't lose weight? I go, what'd you eat last night? And they go, and I go, okay, well, it's the end of that. That's the end of that conversation.
You're like, guess what? It's not a mystery.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that one out.
Yeah, there's science involved, but also not really. So it's just eat a little bit less and,
So what's going on with this podcast? Not this one, yours.
I mean, it's not mine, but I feel a little bit it's a little bit of my baby. It is called Live from the Table, and it's hosted by Noam Dwarman and Dan Natterman. Noam is the owner of the Comedy Cellar, and Dan Natterman is a comic, and it is about politics and pop culture and comedy, really. So it's sort of we discuss things that are, really political and going on, the state of the country. But then we always have another Cellar comic on. So it feels very kind of behind the scenes of the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. We just had, who have we had on recently? We had Tom Green on, we had Artie Lang on, we had Michael J. Fox on a few months ago, we had Judd Apatow on, and then in addition to that, we have all of these really, really smart, kind of journalists and political figures, which is sort of Noam's thing. He is a voracious sort of consumer of, the news and like what's going on with the impeachment and like literally like really like deep dives into stuff. Like I have no fucking idea what they're talking about, but it's a real mix of, the Cellar and, I think the comedians also produce, or lighten the mood, or provide, sort of, hilarious commentary. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've listened to it a bunch of times and it's definitely, it's super interesting. And it's, I think for a person that might be a casual comedy, consumer, right, who says, oh, it's the Comedy Cellar, I'm going to turn that podcast on and expect it to be like, whatever you might find from, these other comedy podcasts that are super popular. It's different. It's like not.
Yeah, it's not that.
It's not that, which is pretty friggin' cool.
Definitely not that.
Because when you think Comedy Cellar, you obviously think you just assume you're going to turn it on and it's going to be a bunch of dick jokes and guys telling funny stories and, that crew of people talking just to each other, sort of similar to the other stuff, and it's completely not. And so I think it's very super cool. Most of stuff that I've listened to, totally over my head. When
right,
some of the time I'm like, that's not, they're not really talking to me, but I do find it interesting because of the different perspective and what you would just assume it's not.
It is sometimes over my head. Also, I think that the sort of back and forth banter between Dan and Noam is that Dan's concern is that it's over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah. And he's one of the funniest guys around.
Dan?
Yeah.
Oh, he's hysterical. He's so funny. Yeah, look, it's a really smart show. They're both really smart, but they're apparently it's not, maybe we're just fucking idiots because there are a lot of people who, write in all the time and they're like,
oh, I'm sure
they know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm like, at least somebody does, right?
Hey, that's awesome.
Well, I feel like comics, they keep their like finger on the pulse. They have to of like what's happening in society for thinking of like bits or like what's new and what's out. So like
right.
As much as like they may have an intellectual on who it's their job to know about the economy or this or the president did that or this guy did that. Like they have to know too because that's how you relate to people and it's news and it's when you do create small talk, that's usually what you talk about, right? Like, oh, did you see the weather and that thing that Joe Biden said or some shit?
Right.
Did you see that most recent video that just came out of Joe Biden, by the way?
Yes, yesterday?
Yeah.
What was it? No, I didn't.
I can't even really explain it.
Oh, I can. So
it's so weird.
He was doing a town hall in Iowa yesterday, and some guy gets up to ask questions, and he asks a question about, or not even a question. He just sort of put it to him like, Donald Trump is in the pocket of Russia, blah blah blah. But he's like, you went out and got your son all set up with some bank in the Ukraine. And so what makes you any different? And then Biden just goes after him. Like,
oh, wow.
You went after me. And it was, not, I don't think his best moment, but at the same time, like he was clearly defending his family. Right. But, might have taken a little bit. That's what you're talking about, right, Nick?
I believe so. Is this where he was talking about, and he was doing it at a youth, like there was like this, he was talking about how his legs were hairy. And
no, that's not what I'm talking about at all.
Oh my God.
No, there's this video that's been going around. A lot of like comedians have been commenting on it, and D'Elia particularly, where he's just Joe Biden just goes on this weird rant, and it's I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna find it, send it to you. It's the weirdest shit ever. He talks about how his legs are hairy and how he used to like work in
I did see that. I did
right?
see that.
Yes, it's so uncomfortable.
It's just weird. Like, what was that?
I don't know, dude. He's like your senile uncle. Like he's just like fucking.
But that's the greatest thing about him is that like, yes, he goes through those moments where it's like, what the fuck did Uncle Joe just say?
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes later, he's the smartest guy you ever spoke to.
Yeah.
Like, that's called in the throes of dementia.
That's fine. I'd rather be in the throes of dementia and have that guy with his finger on the button than the fucking guy that's got his finger on the button now, who is in throes of something else.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, like, nobody would be in the throes of dementia, because I feel like we saw what happened when Reagan went down that road and it wasn't so great.
Great for comedy.
Yeah, maybe. Not so good for like the hundreds of thousands of gay men who died of AIDS, though.
That's true.
Yeah, not great.
But good for a comedy. So, you do the math.
So let's talk about what's next for you. Do you have plans to write another book? Like, you doing more Are you going? How many times are you going up, like doing stand up every week, or is it just more writing and podcasting?
Well, I'm actually starting to. I am going up tomorrow night. I'm doing a spot tomorrow night, and I'm starting to really do that. I was doing it much like last year. For the past year and a half, I had my own show, so I was really lucky that like I was able to kind of get into, the industry or performing in like a very different way than most people do, I think. Like, I wasn't going to like every single open mic.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was, I was really lucky that I was able to do that. But so that show is over because my partner who I was doing it with moved to LA. And I do have a bunch of stuff that are sort of in like various states of development. I'm working on trying to get some TV stuff going, like writing jobs, and we shot a little pilot that we just finished that were for the web, ideally for like a YouTube for now, that we just finished editing, and we're going to start like pitching around after the new year. And yeah, so I definitely have a bunch of stuff going on. I eventually I do think I will write another book, but I'm really trying to focus on like performing and doing TV web stuff right now.
What's your favorite thing to do? Like, what do you like doing the best?
I like all of it. Like, I really do. Like, I just feel so happy to be in the room.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like so cheesy, but it's
really
true.
You're in a great room.
Yeah, I'm in
pretty good.
Yeah, and I started producing a show there every Thursday at 6:00, and we donate the door to a different charity every week at the Underground.
Very cool.
Yeah, I love being on stage, and I love putting together shows too. Like, my background, just because of work, is in like when I had my show Just the Tip, it was like I did all of the branding and the creative direction and all the merch, and so like it's nice to have all of those things, because then I can really like put together an entire show. And I really do love doing that. Like, I love having a show and putting it together and sort of figuring out what it is and what it looks like, and then doing all the design stuff and promoting it and performing in it. And I like having like ownership over projects and like creative like sort of vision over them.
So what's the show at 6:00 on Thursdays? It's an open mic, or it's just a show?
No. That's like just a regular. They added like it's like any other show you would see at the Cellar or the Underground.
Right.
They just added a show at 6:00 on Thursdays. I mean, the truth is that most of the shows are sold out there. So this is a new show, and it's like every other show you would see there. but the money from the ticket sales is donated, to a different charity every week.
And who books? Do you book the show?
I do not book the show. The seller books the show. I deal with like all of the logistics of like figuring out the organization and liaising with the organization, and they're promoting the show as well on their end, right? Because like the more people who buy tickets, the more money we raise for the organization.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't book. The seller books all the comics. They're all seller comics.
And how does that show do at 6? Like that show sells out too every Thursday at 6?
There were like over 100 people there yesterday.
Wow, that's
which
awesome.
Is like, yeah. No, I don't think it's selling out yet. I mean, there are definitely, there's room, there's space in the room. For
Right. No,
sure.
I was just curious because it's 6 o'clock on a Thursday. It's
totally.
early.
It's a weird time.
Yeah,
It's a
but I
weird
mean,
time.
shit. To have 100 people, coming to pay and raising money for charity at 6 on every Thursday is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm also trying to like figure out. I mean, whatever. This isn't that interesting to talk about on air, but yeah, we're figuring it out. It's good. It's amazing. It's so fun. Like it really is. And yeah, I'm in the middle of conversations with like a few places of starting another show myself, which is really exciting for
awesome.
me.
Yeah, that's super.
Yeah.
You'll have to come down and support this charity on Thursdays at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. You should come down.
It would be awesome. So what we're gonna wrap up here, but we wanted to just plug all of your stuff. You got the Comedy Cellar podcast, your website, books, whatever you want to plug.
You can just everything's on my. I basically operate through Instagram.
Okay.
I'm at Periel Aschenbrand is my Instagram, and you can find everything else through there.
Beautiful.
And we'll list that in the show listing, so people don't have to try to guess all the spelling of that on their own.
Amazing. And then the Cellar podcast is at Live from the Table.
Okay. All righty.
And it's an awesome listen.
Yeah, I didn't know it got political. I wanna rip that and I want to see how that goes.
Well, this was
Thank
insanely
you guys
fun.
so much.
I appreciate you making fun of me in the early part of this.
Yes, me too.
I'm surprised you let that go so fast. I was ready to buckle in, but we'll save that for next time.
Hilarious. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Yes, have a good weekend.
We'll talk
Okay,
soon.
you too.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye.